If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to love you, if you've ever been treated like you were disposable and expected to just accept it, then this story is for you. Subscribe if you want more stories about quiet strength and real turning points. Have you ever been pushed so far that something inside you finally snapped? Click hype or hit that like button to support stories like this one. The dinner was supposed to clear the air. That's what my husband, Derek, told me on the drive over. His voice was casual, almost rehearsed. My parents just want everyone on the same page, he said, adjusting his rearview mirror like it was any other Sunday. I should have known right then. The house smelled like roasted garlic and his mother's lavender candles, that thick, sweet scent she used to cover up everything unpleasant. The whole family was already seated when we arrived. His parents at the heads of the table. His sister, Renee, across from his brother, Kyle. Everyone had wine glasses. Everyone looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Halfway through the main course, Derek reached into a bag beside his chair and pulled out a manila envelope. He slid it across the table toward me, right between the bread basket and the salad bowl. Sign it now, he said. No words. No explanation. Just a command. I looked down at the papers. Legal language. Dense paragraphs. My name printed on dotted lines. What is this? I asked. His mother, Gloria, leaned forward. It's just a formality, Danielle. For the good of the family. Renee nodded like she'd practiced. We all agreed this makes the most sense. I flipped through the pages. My hands were steady but my stomach was turning. It was a post-nuptial agreement mixed with a property waiver. They wanted me to sign away my claim to shared assets. The house. The savings account. Decision-making power over anything tied to Derek's family trust. All of it. You should be grateful we're even including you in the conversation, Gloria added, sipping her wine. Kyle chuckled under his breath. Derek stared at me, jaw tight, pen already placed beside my hand. Everyone was watching, waiting for my pen to hit the paper, but I didn't pick it up. Not yet, because this wasn't the first time they had tried to push me into a corner. It was just the first time they did it with paperwork. 2 weeks before that dinner, I found out I'd been excluded from a family meeting about the trust. Derek mentioned it by accident. He was on the phone with Kyle and said, "Yeah, we already decided everything at Mom's on Tuesday." I wasn't invited. I wasn't informed. I wasn't even mentioned. When I asked about it, Derek shrugged. It's family business. I looked at him. I'm your wife. He didn't answer. That was betrayal number 1. The second came at a barbecue the weekend before the dinner. Gloria was talking to her neighbor about home renovations, and I offered a suggestion about contractor pricing since I'd helped manage a remodel at work. Gloria smiled thinly and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "That's sweet, Danielle, but we're talking about real decisions, not office paperwork." A few people laughed. Derek said nothing. He just flipped a burger and pretended he didn't hear. That insult sat in my chest like a stone. The third betrayal was the worst. 2 days before the dinner, Renee called me. Her voice was soft, almost kind, which should have been my warning. "Danielle, I just think you should know. Everyone feels like you're being a little selfish about the trust stuff. Derek is stressed. If you really loved him, you'd just make this easy." Selfish. For asking questions. For wanting to understand what was happening with my own marriage, my own finances, my own future. At that dinner table, surrounded by people who had already made their decisions without me, something shifted. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I put the pen down. I looked at Derek and said, "I have a few questions first." Gloria sighed. "Here we go." Kyle muttered, "Just sign it." Derek's voice hardened. "Danielle, don't make this difficult." But I didn't apologize. For the first time, I didn't apologize. What none of them knew was that I'd already started protecting myself. Weeks before that dinner, I noticed things that didn't add up. Bank statements with transfers I didn't authorize. Documents moved from the filing cabinet at home. Derek whispering on phone calls and going silent when I walked into the room. I'm not a suspicious person by nature. But I'm not blind either. What they didn't know was, I'd already asked for help. I made quiet phone calls on my lunch breaks from the parking garage at work. I copied every document I could find, one folder at a time. While Derek was at the gym, I wrote down dates, conversations, exact words people said to me and when they said them. I built a timeline that told a story nobody at that table expected me to have. There was a report. 12 pages. Detailed. Thorough. And it was already in the hands of someone who knew exactly what to do with it. So when I sat at that dinner table, calm and still, while everyone waited for me to break, I wasn't being passive. I wasn't frozen. I was ready. And they had absolutely no idea. The man I called was Roger Whitfield. He was 71 years old, semi-retired, and he'd handled estate and contract law for over 40 years. He wasn't flashy. He didn't advertise. But he was sharp and more importantly, he was honest. I'd found him through a coworker whose family had gone through something similar. When I first sat in his office and explained what was happening, he didn't look surprised. He looked tired. Like he'd seen this exact pattern too many times. They're isolating you from information, he told me. That's step 1. Step 2 is getting you to sign something under pressure. Step 3 is making you believe it was your idea. He agreed to help. Noritane upfront. He said, I've watched families do this to good people. I'm not going to watch it happen again. Back at the dinner table, Gloria was tapping her nails against her wine glass. Honestly, Danielle, we've been very patient. Renee smiled. This really is the simplest solution. Kyle said, Can we wrap this up? The game starts at 8. Derek leaned in. Just sign, and we can all move on. They were so confident, so relaxed, so sure I had nothing. I reached under the table and sent a single text. 3 words. Come in now. Less than 2 minutes later, there were footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Steady. The sound of hard-soled shoes on tile. Gloria frowned. Who is that? I didn't answer. The dining room door opened. Roger Whitfield stepped into the room wearing a gray suit and carrying a leather folder thick enough to land with a thud when he set it on the table. He nodded to me. Then he looked at Derek. Good evening. I'm Mr. Whitfield. I represent Danielle. Gloria stood up. Excuse me, this is a private family dinner. Roger didn't flinch. Ma'am, the moment you placed legal documents on this table and pressured my client to sign them without independent counsel, this stopped being a dinner. He opened the folder. 12 pages. Printed. Tabbed. Color-coded. He read the first section aloud. It detailed unauthorized transfers from the joint savings account into a trust fund controlled solely by Gloria and Derek. Over $47,000 moved in the past 8 months. That's a lie, Derek said, but his voice cracked. Roger turned to the second tab. Copies of emails between Derek and his family's financial advisor, discussing how to restructure asset ownership before the postnuptial agreement was signed. The emails explicitly reference keeping me uninformed. Those are private, Renee snapped. They're evidence, Roger corrected. He kept going. The third section showed that the document Derek wanted me to sign contained clauses that would have voided my rights to the home, the retirement accounts, and any claim to shared property, even in the event of divorce. It was written to benefit one side completely, his side. Kyle leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. Gloria sat down slowly, her face pale. Derek grabbed the edge of the table. You went behind my back? I looked at him. Really looked at him. You went behind mine first. Roger closed the folder. My client will not be signing anything tonight, and I'd strongly advise this family to retain separate legal counsel before any further discussions. I stood up from that table on my own terms. Nobody pushed me. Nobody pulled me. I picked up my coat, my bag, and what was left of my dignity, and I walked out of that house without raising my voice. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. Behind me, I could hear Gloria arguing with Derek. I could hear Renee's voice rising. I could hear the sound of a family plan falling apart because they never once considered that I might fight back. In the weeks that followed, legal proceedings began. The unauthorized transfers were flagged. The postnuptial agreement was thrown out before it ever reached a courtroom. Derek called me 7 times that first week. I didn't answer. I learned something that night that I wish I'd understood years earlier. Silence isn't peace. It's permission. And I was done giving permission. I don't know what my life looks like 5 years from now, but I know it looks like mine. And that's enough. If you've ever been cornered by family and pressured to sign something you didn't understand, or if you've been told to just agree for the sake of keeping the peace, I want you to know you're not alone. That kind of pressure isn't love. It's control. If this story felt personal to you, share your experience in the comments. This community is full of people who understand exactly what that feels like. Click hype to help this story reach others who need to hear it. If you want more stories about standing up for yourself when no one expects you to, subscribe and stay. Drop your own story in the comments because someone out there needs to read it. Every single hype helps another person feel a little less alone in what they're going through. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. It means more than you know.